757 meetings, 287 days on, a day job, 80 events representing the Lord Mayor, an average of 9 events a week, a busiest week of 64 hours and an average week of 48 hours, and probably around about 500 coffees. Hello, my name's Councillor Jess Miller and I am not the Deputy Lord Mayor of Sydney. In the last 12 months, there's been some really important campaigns that have been happening in Sydney. So I've continued to be able to work with a whole range of community groups on the WestConnex campaign. We fought really hard around the EIS. There's been a lot of protesting, it's fair to say. I've probably rocked up with a placard out the front of State Parliament with colleagues like Jenny Leung, Alex Greenwich and Pauline Mockey more times than I can care to mention. We did some great work with the Town Hall Forum. We presented an alternative to WestConnex to the Premier. We've also helped a lot of groups run a really great series of protests calling for the government to fix public transport in New South Wales. Around about this time last year, some clever people in my office figured out that there actually isn't any roadside air pollution monitoring in Sydney, and that in fact most of the air pollution monitoring happens in national parks around Sydney. So when the air pollution monitors are located in places like Lane Cove National Park, it's no surprise that the air quality in Sydney is always pretty great. Well, we politely wrote a letter to the Minister for the Environment, Gabrielle Upton. In around July last year, she said that she would work with the city to install an air pollution monitoring station within the City of Sydney. It was supposed to have been done in December, so instead of just waiting for that to happen, we thought, well, why don't we look for other solutions? And so we worked with the Energy Lab in Chippendale to do a Breathable Sydney hackathon, where we looked at using new smart technology and wearable devices that could help measure the air pollution in and around Sydney to inform better decisions. In September last year, I think it was, I introduced a notice of motion calling for an urgent review of the late night DCP, and that work's progressing really nicely within council. So in the next few months you can expect to see a draft version of that map of fun. We now have a late night panel made up of industry that are working really hard to ensure that the city gets it right. We also have a review into base retail hours. So ideally, in the not too distant future, shops will be open later. There'll be much more to do around Sydney at night time, and we'll see the burgeoning of some new late night precincts all around the city. One of the other things that was fun this year was introducing this idea of the Deputy Lord Mayors. Youth Week, ironically enough, makes me feel really old. So instead of me showing up to a whole lot of events and forums in the city attempting to speak on behalf of young people, I invited young people to come and join me for the entirety of Youth Week to learn what being in council's like and speak for themselves and kind of soak up a bit of the atmosphere within Youth Week. So we all know that Sydney doesn't suck. But what we need to make people more aware of this year is that Sydney doesn't suck on straws. So inspired by the Small Bar Chingalings and the work that they were doing to get rid of single-use plastics, I was fortunate enough to work with Time Out and a whole range of hospitality leaders to come up with and execute a campaign called Sydney Doesn't Suck. Yes, it involved me dressing up as a seal and looking a little bit like a wally, but it was all for very good reason, given that the commitment from these venues just in the Sydney Opera House precinct alone meant that almost 6 million straws will not be used within next year. So that's a pretty incredible outcome. This year has also been a very interesting one for political leadership. And what we've seen is a light being shone increasingly on what types of opportunities are available to women who want to participate in civic and political life. The reality from my experience is that it's pretty hard won out there, and I've been incredibly grateful to be surrounded by a whole lot of really supportive men and women at the city, and also invited to participate in the Women for Election Australia Forum, where there was also a great deal of support. So it's been a really busy year, but I've been really fortunate enough to be working very closely with the Lord Mayor and with all of my great independent team colleagues. The new Deputy Lord Mayor for this year is Linda Scott. She'll do a sensational job, and one of the reasons why it's really important that she's in this role is that she's also the president of the New South Wales Local Government Association. So she's in a great position to provide some really good advocacy to make sure that it's as easy as possible for all types of men and women and people from a whole range of different backgrounds to get involved in political life. Getting involved in government and being a leader really starts at the grassroots level, and without a bit of support to be able to do that, it means that we're not getting enough good people going up through the ranks. And as is probably quite obvious by the mess that is federal and probably state government at the moment, we need some really strong leadership right now from good people. So I really look forward to seeing what Linda does.